Spilling Ink is brought to you by Book Branders, your self-publishing concierge.
All right, hi everybody. It's me, your favorite host again, Jason Lavelle, and I am here with another awesome author to talk to, Elise Kova. How are you doing today?
Hello. I'm doing all right.
Yeah?
Aside from the fact that you're lying to your listeners right off the bat, I am not awesome at all.
She
I am
is
the
so
most boring
awesome.
person.
Look at these book covers. Look at them. You know she has to be awesome if she's got these. Well, what are you thinking of our convention here in Grand Rapids?
You know, I love it. I was really flattered foremost that you guys saved the first snow of the season for my arrival.
Just for you. Just for you.
Just for me. I'm from Florida, and so for me, I've seen snow before and I've been in snow before, but every time I see it, it's like that magical experience.
Oh
so
my
it really
God.
put the whole weekend in like this sort of snowball glow of just winter wonderland.
I am glad that it's magical for you, because it's not so magical for us. You know, and I don't even mind snow. I like looking at snow, but when you have to drive on it for 4 months, it's like, oh man. You know, every time I get behind the wheel, I feel like I'm playing Russian roulette with the highway. So
yeah, I lived in a place with winter once and got stuck in ice, really stuck in ice, because apparently you don't slam on your brakes
No,
and then
definitely
slowly
not.
turn your wheels to make wells in the ice. I didn't know this.
Where did you live that had ice?
Japan, actually.
No way.
Yeah, I lived in Japan I lived there for 6 months in college as I studied abroad, and then I moved back when I finished my master's for about 2 years.
That's amazing.
It was
What did
fun.
you go to school for, if you don't mind me asking?
My undergraduate was in critical media and cultural studies, which is like the psychology of marketing, and then I got my MBA immediately after that.
Okay.
And then I sold everything I owned because I wanted to have a life adventure, and I moved to Japan and was a second grade teacher.
Wow. It sounds like a movie.
It was
It really does.
It was an incredible experience, and over that time was actually when I wrote my debut novel in series, Air Awakens, and yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Well, speaking of Air Awakens, tell us a little bit about what you write.
Yeah, so I write books, kind of my short summary is I write books with magic and some amount of romance in them. And I do say some amount of romance because some of my series have a lot more than others, but I love fantastical worlds. I love magic. I love swords and sorceries and all of that in every form they take. And so each one of my series has that as kind of the underpinning for it. So I have my debut series that I said was Air Awakens, and Air Awakens came out in 2015.
Okay.
5 books, it's finished. There's a prequel trilogy of 3 books that's out called the Golden Guard Trilogy. And there's a sequel series actually coming out to that, Air Awakens Vortex Chronicles, in February of next year. Immediately after the Air Awakens series, I wrote the Loom Saga, which is dark, gritty fantasy with a steampunk flair.
Ooh, that's the stuff I like.
So we're talking blood magic and
Yes.
engineers turned organ thieves, and it's a lot of grit in that one. And then I completely changed it yet again, and in the Wish Quartet wrote a kind of more paranormal romance set in a near future alternate reality about a hacker who's reborn as a witch and discovers she's actually a demigod.
Ooh.
So it's
Okay.
kind of all across the board, but like I said, all of them have magic and some amount of romance. My least romance is probably the Loom Saga.
Okay, very cool. And I write paranormal thrillers. That's my thing, and I can't get enough of them. So, but I like a good dark fantasy. You know, this last year I read a lot of Leigh Bardugo, who wrote the Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom, and then Victoria Schwab, who has written a great number of fantastic books. So yeah, I've been trying to get back into fantasy. Because I was out for so long just reading Stephen King and Dean Koontz and
which is
James
nothing wrong
Rollins.
with.
No, but I was so stuck in a groove that it was tough for me to go anywhere and pick up a book if it wasn't those authors. So I've really been trying to expand more. So yeah. So you have, first, are you indie or traditional?
So I'm a hybrid.
Okay.
And
A small press or?
so small press, small medium press.
Okay.
So I have, most of my series are published indie. I have the Loom Saga is the one that's published through the small press.
Okay. Now, do you ever find, because I've been hammered on this by my editor before, that I have fractured my reader base by writing in slightly different genres?
Oh, of course.
Do you ever get anything like that?
Of course.
Yeah.
and even something where, you know, Air Awakens was my debut, and that was high fantasy YA with a romance element, whereas Loom was high fantasy but a more darker element, and it was adult. And even just that switch was a huge shift in reader base and a huge change of, a lot of readers did carry over, a lot of readers didn't. And so there is sort of that element to this learning curve of this journey that I've been on, where I've been trying to figure out, okay, what do I, one, really want to write, and two, will kind of keep the same readers coming back. And that's where I've started to land on I got magic and romance. You want to know more beyond that? Read the individual synopsises.
Okay. Well, and this is kind of it's always been the question. You know, do you write what you want to write, what you love, or do you write what you see as selling?
A bit of both. I think that if you don't have passion for a project, I do think that translates into the project in a not good way. Okay. And I like to write books that I want to read. But again, as I said, something like the Loom Saga is a little bit of a harder sell than the Air Awakens series that has a very kind of clear audience and logline and hits some of the expectations that readers will expect more than Loom does. Okay. So yeah.
Well, and our host, Katie, who's actually in Las Vegas right now, she's been having some issues with this, where she writes some paranormal romance, she writes some YA fantasy. She also wrote this really cool dystopian Gladiator series. It was like 9 books long, and it was my favorite. I thought it was awesome. But what she was telling me is it's just the YA fantasy that's selling, and she can't figure out how to get those readers to cross over and what to do about it. You know?
Well, and I think there's a certain point that I think you get as much crossover as you can, but there's a certain point that if you're switching genres like that, you have to almost treat it like it's a completely new debut, and view it as you're working from the ground up on that one. And if you continue to write in that sort of genre or world, then you can piggyback off yourself in that way. But once you're switching, that's really a lot like a debut again. And I know a lot of authors will choose to do new pen names for different genres, not necessarily because they don't want readers to know. I know authors who do it and then say up front, it's me.
Okay.
It's not to hide things, but it's for things like the Amazon also bots. Yeah. Or keeping that algorithm making sense, so you don't have a book that then confuses Amazon of, okay, who should I market this to? YA fantasy or paranormal or that kind of thing.
Well, and do you find that Amazon's algorithms are working for you right now? Are you seeing sales right now? Because it's been kind of a crap time for
it's been a definite weird time. I've seen some fluctuations that I would qualify as not entirely normal, but overall things are looking up. Things are looking good, and so I'm just kind of like, if I can stay level or improve, then I'm good to go.
No, you went to school and you. Gosh, I can't even remember how you described it to me, but something about marketing.
Psychology of marketing was my undergrad.
Psychology of marketing. Okay. So when you're marketing your books, first of all, are you doing any paid ad services?
Oh yeah.
Yeah?
Oh yeah.
Are you doing the AMS ads or Facebook or everything? Both?
Both.
Okay.
And then if I have a specific promotion I'm running, I may throw in a Twitter or a BookBub, pay-per-click or whatnot.
Okay. Do you find that those make a big difference?
Yes.
Okay.
Indefinitely. Indefinitely? Definitely?
Definitely.
I was like, I'm sorry, I've talked a lot
today. They definitely
today.
do indefinitely.
Oh, there we go. I run the ads indefinitely, as long as they definitely yield returns.
There you go. I like it. No, and that's a big thing, and we have people ask us that all the time, because there's only so much money in the budget every month.
Yeah.
Usually, where do I spend this $100 or where do I spend this $50? Do you go for Amazon? Do you go for Facebook? Do you go for a newsletter builder? What do you do?
I mean, I would say out the gate you should always have a newsletter builder, in the sense of if you're not necessarily if you're spending money on it, but just back your books, have a newsletter, information that people can subscribe to. have a newsletter magnet if you can, be it a small novella or some sample stories or something, just to, again, put it in your back matter and say, hey, do you want a free story from me? Download, subscribe to my newsletter and download it. Because
I know I have a story of yours waiting in my email because I subscribed to your newsletter.
And so it doesn't take a lot, and if you put out a good newsletter, people will stay. But at least, I haven't checked it in a while, I admit, but at least back when I was working in corporate America, email converts higher than any other form of marketing still.
Okay.
And the other thing is that with email, you own those contacts. They're yours. And no matter what other marketing you do, you don't own those contacts at that point. You don't own that buyer, that reader. You're at the whim of Facebook or Amazon. And so I always say that even if you're not pouring money into it, you're doing nothing other than paying a base subscription fee of whatever cheapest thing you can find, have a way that you're collecting emails, because that's really important to start building your newsletter list. Okay. But going back to what you said, if an author only has $50 or $100, I would stray toward AMS ads than Facebook.
Okay. And do you design your own AMS ads, or do you have a team that builds them for you?
It's all me.
It's all you?
It's all me.
All right. Well, we might have to chat with you at a later date just on AMS ads, because that's that's a whole art form in itself.
Yeah.
Figuring that out and making it work.
And I'm happy. I'm happy to lend any knowledge I know, but I have to give props to Michelle Maddow. I don't know if anyone listening has read her books or seen her name around, but she does awesome work on AMS ads and has great insights. So.
Michelle Maddow. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll have to look her up and get her insights. Now, what about these conventions? Because most of our marketing that we do is going to be online, obviously, because that's where we're selling the most books. But how do conventions fit in? What do they do for you?
So, conventions are kind of twofold for me. Conventions on one side are interaction, and I'm an extrovert. Shocker. I'm like the unicorn author who's the one author who's like, I'm an extrovert and I'm dying every day being alone.
Well, after reading your page, I was surprised you weren't cosplaying as an anime character here today.
I every time I come to a con, I'm like, I need a costume. So for me, writing's a solitary process, other than the people who are alive in your head. I mean, they keep you company. But it's a solitary process, and it's very much, you write it and you work on it and you do all of that alone, and then you put it out into the world, and then you maybe read reviews or get some comments on social media, but you don't interact with the people who consume your work. And so conventions for me on one side are nice to interact with readers, whether it's existing readers or potential new readers. Okay. The other side of conventions for me are just fun. I just like coming. Okay. Like, I really do.
Okay, excellent. So now you are here as a guest, not a vendor today.
It's my first time.
Is it
just
really?
So everyone knows, this is my first time as a guest.
How did you do it? Because we have some people that'd like to know.
My agent worked it out. I'm sorry. That's
agents, that.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you need to pause?
Can I pause and sell the book that's sitting on the table?
Hey, man, I wanted that book on there.
No, it's okay.
I'm just joking.
Should I sign it to her? How do you spell her name?
We have to pause for a signing here. This is what it's like when you're Elise Kova. She is so popular that she can't do an interview without being swapped.
Hi. Thank you so much. And how do you spell your name?
COURTNEY.
Thank you so much. And there you go. And did you grab a bookmark and stuff up there? Okay, the bookmarks and posters are free. So if you want them, just go ahead and grab them. Thank you so much. Happy reading.
And just like that, the last heir awakens is sold. That's impressive. That's impressive. All right. So that's another reason we're at conventions here is you actually sell books here. That's good.
Yeah, conventions are a little weird on that one. I don't see them as really revenue generating opportunities personally. When I go either as a vendor, like I said, it's first time as a guest, so I'm usually a vendor. Between the cost of the books, getting to the convention, even if I do it locally, getting to the convention, if I don't do it locally, the cost of flights and hotels and all of that, then it really becomes not a net positive. And then the energy spent at the convention of time that I could be spending writing, editing, working on those Facebook and AMS ads. Yeah. It's one of those things that I truly don't see conventions as a net positive. Okay. And that's even if I make money on the weekend, and I do usually sell out when I'm vendoring and whatnot, and I'm here all 3 days. But that's just the way I look at it. And again, what I'm getting from these conventions is more than just the dollar amount. So I'm like, if I break even, then it was a worthwhile weekend. Okay.
Well, no, that makes sense. And I hear a little bit of both. There's a lady just over there, Evans, I believe her last name is.
Yeah, Esther Evans.
Yes.
She's awesome. Go check her out.
She is. And I talked to her yesterday, but she was telling me she's selling books like hotcakes this week, and I'm like, that's fantastic. And then I chat with you, and you're like, okay, you're here more for the social interaction and networking, and that's good. Well, now you did say something just a couple minutes ago about your agent. Your agent set you up as a guest here.
Yes.
So this is one of those where we're going into traditional versus indie.
Yes.
That we should probably talk about, and we talked to Mindy. She just did a panel about getting published and getting an agent, but how did you get your agent?
I wrote a lot of books and hit the USA Today bestseller list. I'm so that's the direct, honest answer. When I first started writing, I wrote Air Awakens, I edited it, and I knew I wanted to publish it. And I was like, publishing, how do, internet, please help. And I queried agents, because that's what you do. And I queried 111 agents over the course of a year. I was rejected by every single one. And then I self-published Air Awakens. It did really well. I was really fortunate on that, and I was truly lucky. And the 5th book hit the USA Today bestseller list. Through that, I met the owner of the small press that I did Loom through. So I kind of had that sort of hybrid experience, but in a more direct way than like a big five sort of situation. And then I had another book that I was like, okay, I think that this book may make more sense in the traditional world, but I would like to go for a big five. I'd like to have that experience and learn from it. And at that point, I was at that point 8 and 11 books published. Wow. And I had been around in the author community and made some friends, and I started putting out feelers to my friends where I'm like, I'm thinking of querying again, tell me everything's going to be okay. And had an author friend who was like, I think you would do well at my agency, and I was like, okay, because that was one of the ones I was considering, and queried 2 agents and signed with one the second time around. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, it's...
Now, how did you pick which agents you were going to query? Did you go through and see what other type of authors they represented first, or did you just...
The first time I queried, or the second time I queried?
The time you were successful.
The time I was successful. It really was, again, by that point I had been around sort of the author community and gotten to know a bunch of authors and talking about their agents and agencies and what their agents did and didn't do. And I kind of had a very clear idea of what I was looking for in an agent. And the big thing for me is I like being hybrid. Okay. I don't have plans currently to be a solely traditionally published author or solely an indie author, but agents don't make money on indie books. And so finding an agent who's okay with that, it was something that I was like, that's important to me, and that's going to narrow the list a lot.
Okay. Interesting. So your agent isn't pursuing big 5 contracts for you because you want to remain the way you are then?
She is.
Oh, she is?
She is for a title, a different title.
Okay,
yeah.
okay. And that's an unpublished title
That's
right now?
an unpublished title right now.
Okay, wonderful. Interesting.
I shouldn't say she is. We're still revising it, so I don't know what she's going to pursue.
She will be. Soon that book will be on this table too to sell out, which is good. Okay, interesting. Very cool. Now, you said you like being hybrid, and based on your panel earlier, you were kind of talking about traditional versus indie, and
yeah.
so I guess I wasn't there. I was interviewing someone else, but
how dare
would it be?
you?
I know. I feel terrible. I really wanted to, but would it be safe to say that you kind of see benefits in both?
Oh yeah, undeniably, and that's one big thing that like I've met indie authors who are staunch. Indie is the way to go, and if you're not indie, you're throwing away your money or money you could be earning, leaving it on the table, and you're giving up your book baby to someone who won't treat it well, and you're still going to have to spend money marketing. And I've heard traditional authors with I sell so many more copies, and even though I get a much smaller percentage, I'm making more because I sell so much more, or I'm a real author because I have a publisher. And my kind of mantra in the panel was that you define your own success, whatever that looks like to you. If all you care about is that you want a book published, and if your mom, your best friend, and your best friend's cat are the only people who read it, and you're cool with that, then cool. And so there are things that I look at traditional publishing, and there are benefits to it, undeniable benefits to it. And I look at indie publishing, and there are undeniable benefits to that, pros and cons to both, and it's what fits you best in your career best.
Okay. So if you can't do traditional, or you have been rejected traditionally, and you're wondering what to do, it's not a terrible idea to go indie?
I don't think so, but again, I also think it depends on what the individual really wants. Because if their goal is that manuscript is someday published by a big 5 publisher, if they independently publish it, a big 5 publisher probably is not going to ever pick it up. And I say probably because if you make friends with a producer out in Hollywood who makes it into a movie, then yeah, HarperCollins may be like, okay.
Or if you write Wool, then they're still going to buy it from you anyway. Yeah.
But those are the very small exceptions and not the rule. And most publishers don't want to touch something that's been put out there. And I know a lot of authors who are like, I can't abide by the idea that this isn't traditionally published. And so if that's the case, trunk it and write something else that you either shop that to publishers and try to get in that way, or you independently publish that title.
Well, that's fair enough. And the first book I ever wrote, I self-published that, and all I wanted was to write a book. It was a bucket list thing. I just wanted to write one cool story, and I had a great idea for it. And that book did really well. And I said, okay, well, I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to keep writing. And now I'm doing the same thing you are. I'm a hybrid author. I publish with a small press, and I still self-publish because the stuff that a small press doesn't want to include, I want to do on my own. And that's okay.
And that's okay. And that's the other thing too, is where I also feel like people think that if they choose indie or choose traditional, it's like lock in your choice. Once it is made, you can never change it, and
it's not a video game.
Yeah. You're not picking your class.
Yeah. All right. Well, I have a little game for you.
Okay. Oh
Lightning round questions.
Oh no.
Yes.
Oh no.
They're not hard. They're easy.
I just am scared of the things that come out of my mouth when
That's
I
why
don't
we
think about
ask.
the filter.
All right. So I'm going to ask a question. You just answer as quickly as you can with the first thing that pops into your head. Okay.
All right.
This ought to be good.
I'm good with this.
I like it. All right, first question. Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
No.
Excellent. You're off to a good start. TARDIS or vortex manipulator?
TARDIS.
Good. Last book you read?
I can't answer that one because it's not published yet.
Oh.
It's a friend's book, and I was reading it for like a blurb.
All right. Okay, fair
I'm
enough.
sorry.
We'll let you go on that. We're going to let you go on that.
Last book I read that was published, A Blood Oath, by Ray Wagner and Kelly Sinclair.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right.
I didn't want to dodge that one.
No, that's good. That's good. All right. Oceans or lakes?
Oceans.
Okay.
Hands down.
Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Trek.
Most embarrassing thing that's happened to you at one of these?
At a convention?
Yeah. Or a public engagement of any kind?
When I was a teacher, I was wearing a skirt and fell, and one of my parents was in the parking lot, and the skirt went up to my shoulders. That's not really me as an author, but it's just me being clumsy.
That's still embarrassing. We'll still make fun of you later for it.
It was very embarrassing for sure.
All right, that's good. That qualifies. All right, what did you have for breakfast?
I ordered room service last night, and I got beignets.
And you got what?
Beignets, and I got so full that there were 2 left over, and I was like, beignets are just basically fried dough. That's a donut. So I had beignets for breakfast.
All right. Okay, that works too. Selena Gomez or Camila Cabello?
I don't have a strong opinion, but I'll go with Selena.
Okay. All right, that works. Scary movies or comedies?
Comedies.
All right.
I don't like being scared.
Worm or wyvern?
Wyvern.
Okay. That's a good choice. They're cool. David Tennant or Matt Smith?
Matt Smith.
Yes! That's my girl! All right. All right. What's something weird that you do?
Oh,
Don't overthink it.
I have to. Oh, when I get on an airplane, I slap the outside of the airplane.
Okay.
I give it a little love tap.
Just a little. Okay. All right.
For good luck.
Favorite word?
Does it have to be in English?
No.
Gyunyu.
What does that mean?
Milk in Japanese.
All right.
I just think it's fun to say.
Say it again.
Gyunyu.
Gyunyu. All right, that's cool.
Yeah.
I get behind that. Shrek or The Lion King?
Lion King.
Ooh, I don't know about that choice. I don't know about that. What's the cutest dog?
All the dogs. They are all good boys.
I like it. That's the perfect answer. Marvel or DC?
Marvel.
Excellent.
Except for Batman. I love Batman.
Oh, Batman's really cool. Which Batmans do you like? There's a lot of Batmans. Who do you like?
I like all the Batman. Like, I even like really campy Batmans.
Oh, okay. All right. See, I really liked Michael Keaton, but that was my childhood Batman.
Yeah.
So I kind of grew up with him. Then I liked Christian Bale until some tape surfaced of him screaming at people on set, and then I was like, oh man, I can't like you if you're a jerk.
I have a hard time with that, with the whole like, is it fair to separate the art from the artist?
I don't.
Like, I'm like, I don't know, but The Dark Knight is so good.
No, they're good movies. I don't know. I have a tough time with that.
That's fair. You're probably a better person than I.
I doubt it. Dean or Sam?
I've never watched Supernatural.
All right.
I would go with Dean because I like the name better.
He's the one with short hair, I think, right?
Oh, okay. I don't know.
I think he's the one with short hair. He's the one everybody loves. All right, ebooks or paperbacks?
Ebooks to read, paperbacks to collect.
Excellent. That's right where I am too. Magic or martial arts?
Magic.
Hell yeah.
Please.
All right, Stephen King or Dean Koontz?
Stephen King.
Okay.
But that one's close.
It is really close. All right, so let's see here. One last question for you to tie things up. Do you like puppy breath?
I like puppies, but I can't say I'm a big fan of the breath.
Okay. It's a tough one. It really is, because I love puppies, and my wife loves puppy breath. So
I'm not offended by it. Like, if I have puppy breath in my face, that usually means there's a puppy close to me, and that's what I'm focusing on. But like, if you're just like, here is perfume day puppy breath, I'm probably not spraying that on me.
Okay. All right. That's all good. Great answers today. See, and you didn't get stuck on anything. You even recovered from the last book you read. Then.
Yeah.
That was good. Okay. All right. Well, Elise, thank you so much for talking with us today.
Much.
It was very good to meet
me.
you. Yes.
And enjoy the rest of your convention, and
Thank
happy
you.
reading to everyone listening.
Wonderful.